whole city is destroyed and there is no life here. Different when you're here and you're actually walking amongst the rubble. Politics can't, I mean, how you vote, which way you vote doesn't matter when you're looking at this. And at the end of the day, political speeches and great pep talks from either side does us no good. I mean, what do you see when you see this?
One life anywhere is safe.
If you have a corrupt government, at some point, the courts won't matter. At some point, justice and liberty disappear. At some point, freedom diminishes. In America, and for the most part, different parts of the Western Hemisphere have got it down that separation of church and state is good, it's legit, it needs to happen. The problem with the Middle East is there's no separation of mosque and state. So they've honed in the people in the name of Islam, but now what we have is the Islamic State actually trying to topple the governments and topple anyone who doesn't come in alignment with the teachings of Islam. Where is the world? All of these people who have challenged human rights, for some reason our politicians haven't done it. For some reason our leaders in our communities haven't done it. So I'm going to not sit back any longer. I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1984. I was the number 9th from my father and my biological mother. I had a typically traditional Arab American lifestyle. Born in America from Arab genealogy. The Jews, they didn't have a nation, but they had their DNA. And when you're a part of a Semitic culture, your surroundings have nothing to do with who you are. Who you are is what's in your veins. Growing up in America, I didn't quite feel American because we were Arabs living in America. I was 5 years old when my mother and my father split. I don't have much remembrance of it other than sitting by the window waiting for my mother to come home. My father remarried and this woman walks into our lives and she's now my mom. And I wasn't able to talk about my real mom. We didn't mourn. We weren't allowed to mourn. I want to act like a strong, macho human being, but the fact is my mom leaving was a big wound for all of us. I remember crying, but I also remember my sister, who at 12 years old, she had to become our mom, you know? And that's when I realized the enormity of that situation, is when my sister has to become mom at 12, and then my little sisters. From that point on, my father raised us through the perspective, through the lens of a man who was hurt. And one of the hardest times of my life was when I realized that no one has ever dared.
It's very bad.
Awkward.
I was afraid to have my family know that I wasn't a Muslim anymore, because it's not that I thought I was going to be killed or anything like that, but I kind of did. This is terrible. I used to look over my shoulder when I was leaving my job. Like, you want me to be honest? That's going to be bad.
Okay, so tell me without...
I really thought I was going to get shot. I'm not even kidding. I knew that my family, my brothers, my father, they cared so much what the people thought. The people being other Arabs that they knew. And I knew that if the other people found out, that they would have to answer to those people about how their daughter or their sister is not Muslim anymore. And I knew that that would anger them enough that I love my family. I didn't want to lose them in my life. I didn't want to die either. And for a long time, I kind of like looked over my shoulder a little bit because I didn't really know what would happen next. This was brand new for me. I was never not a Muslim. It wasn't very long at all before I told my family that I was no longer Muslim. My father lost it with me at that point and told me to get out of his house, and that if I returned, he would call the cops. And the honor and the pride in our culture was big for him. So I knew that he had to tell me to get out. I didn't think he really wanted in his heart to tell me to get out, but I knew he had to. I think a lot of the fear wasn't because I thought that they were, so terrible, but I just know what's important in that kind of a culture traditionally.
I can't remember the time that I accepted Islam. That's who we were. We were Arab Muslims living in America. Islam was first in our lives. Faith was never a matter of choice. Faith was a matter of identity. It was a matter of, you question anything, but don't question the religion. I was 12 years old when we moved back to Jerusalem. It's ironic and humorous at the same time, because if you're running away from the American culture, American somewhat Christian culture, and you go back to Jerusalem, where Christianity was born, that's the funny part to me. My father had no intention. I didn't have any intention of changing religions or changing faith. If there was a shock of moving to the Middle East, it was the religion shock. I completely 100% intended on becoming a better Muslim. I had no idea that when I gave my heart to the religion, it would disappoint me, it would fail me.
And so you're in the Middle East, you're Palestinian, U.S. citizen, practicing Muslim in the middle of a Jewish state in a Christian church.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Don't forget the Jewish Messiah too, by the way. That adds another dimension.
The U.S. has faced for 4 years. How do you decide who is moderate?
Posting 90,000 messages every day, and it's causing our teams to join the Islamic State.
Pure and simple. And it has no vision other than the slaughter of all who stand in its way.
We're at Politicon. Everybody who knows about politics, religion, the Middle East, everything are here now. So this will be exciting.
And I want to thank Politicon for agreeing to have this panel and all of you that are here today. 1988, this issue was way ahead of its time. So from that time on, I understood on the world stage that there was an issue that was slowly engulfing not only America, but the world. Whatever the shark is in the water, it's in the water. How do you then get and galvanize the Islamic community to stand together and say, you know what, we denounce this?
So, this is the first time we've had these issues on non-Islamic soil, right? We're on someone else's turf, so to speak, right? So now it's like we're trying to find the answers while the situation is happening at the same time. You know what I mean? So I think things like today is the first step.
Why do I get persecuted based on his actions? So that's another viewpoint. So they just don't denounce or condemn because they feel like I didn't do anything.
The Italian community had surveillance. The mafia. Little Italy was surveilled all the time. They had the RICO Act because of the Italians. Now, there was some anti-defamation noise made, but the Italian community didn't want that either. They did not want that gangster mentality to go along, and they then banded together to kind of rid and to communicate their denouncement of that act. And it's not just one guy, a continued series of acts from Belgium to Paris to New York, you know what I'm saying, to San Diego, that has its root a certain kind of radicalization. Yes.
So, I mean, I would have to factually just disagree with you. If we're saying that after Orlando, we have like over 1,000 Muslim leaders in the country signing an agreement saying that, hey, we condemn this, but the media doesn't pick up on it. And then we're perpetuating this stereotype that, hey, Muslims are not speaking up against like atrocities. That's like intellectually dishonest for us.
Do you realize there was the Muslim community needs a peaceful organizational march for peace in America and what Islam is?
You guys are my heroes because you are taking on a task that is huge. I am familiar with the religion because I grew up as a Muslim. And I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My father took us to Jerusalem, which is, the politics is between Israel and the West Bank.
Sure.
So the West Bank isn't even a full-fledged Islamic community. It's just a community. And the things that I see as an American, it's not a thing of us against you guys.
Sure.
It's a, let's get to the bottom of it. Let's stop saying that it's misinterpreted, because even the verse that you mentioned, in context, I come away with a completely different and not as nice interpretation.
Okay.
So I want to address the whole, the thing about Muslims and Islam. Of course, Orlando was not a result of Muslims. Of course, we all know that. I feel like as we continue this dialogue with the Muslim community and the ex-Muslim community, addressing radical Islam in the Middle East, not in the West. And what I'm being told over there is the complete opposite of what we're being told, plus I have my own experience to prove that what I'm interpreting is correct. I have family members who are victimized because of the ideology. I have community members who are afraid to come out and speak on these things because kind-hearted, good people like you three are saying we don't need to revisit the verses. And there's nothing wrong with revisiting.
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't revisit them. I think it's important to tell the truth, right? Don't tell one part of it, say all of it.
Okay, so the truth is, Wahhabism is the actual reformation of Islam. And it happened in the 1800s by a man by the name of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, and he was the original reformer.
Well, you know he was put in jail for his ideology.
I understand, right? But what if Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab was actually quoting correctly? People in America, post-Orlando, write a letter, that doesn't make it theology, that makes it opinions. So how a Christian studies the gospel, what did Jesus say? It's simple. So how does a Muslim study the Sharia? You study Muhammad. And the things that I honestly, my genuine question is there a different solution besides the misinterpretation? Because it's
real Islam is working on your heart.
Okay, according to who though?
According to all of the English Sunni scholars.
I disagree with you.
And we can go
with all due respect, honestly.
And Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa.
My brother, the Hanafi mindset, the Hanafi school of Islamic thought encourages jihad.
That is coming from a particular cultural background.
It's in the Quran, it's in the Sirah, it's everywhere. So my question
there's so many issues here, if we can focus it.
Let me just calm down a second here.
When he made his choice that kind of sabotage those relationships.
And at this young age, to make a choice, for Hazem to walk out of a place of comfort. I mean, his family was well off, and at the expense, it really cost him something. He was not necessarily homeless, but he was without a home, having, in my opinion, somewhat an identity crisis. We just felt like that we needed to provide him a place of some sort of stability at that point in his life. And so he is coming along, and this whole transition process, he's trying to figure out of that culture, how does it work in this culture?
Without ever losing the tenacity, may I add.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember him trying to make us food that we would love that was Palestinian. And of course, we just believe anybody likes fried chicken. It was interesting.
One thing he'd never done, though, was mow a lawn.
Oh, yeah. I got to tell this story. This is so good.
You want to tell it?
Well, yeah, can I just, yeah. He just wants to demonstrate that he loves people. Well, some way or another, when he got on the riding mower, he went to put it in reverse, so it locked in reverse. I'm watching him go all the way around the yard, mowing in reverse, but he got it done. He got it done, even though he mowed the whole thing in reverse. That's Hazem.
There's really nothing else out there, and whatever else was out there was wrong, because that's what I was taught. And the more good you did, the more, for lack of a better word, points you get. And if you get more points on the good side than the bad side, you go to heaven, maybe. My brother Muhammad was very extreme in everything that he did. Growing up, he was extremely bad. And then later in life, he became more devout. And the more devout he got, the more he wanted to learn about Islam in a more pure and natural way.
Was he not seeing pure Islam in America?
According to him, no, he wasn't. And so an opportunity presented itself in Yemen, and he decided to go. Soon after he got there, things got really bad really fast. And the first attack, he survived, but a lot of his friends died. We had FBI agents show up at my dad's store saying, "We can get your son out. Just convince him to come with us." And he refused. He sounded confident that they would come back again, and he sounded ready and prepared for when they did. He was ready to die. He was taught that you get great reward for dying as a shaheed, as a martyr. I just felt so alone in a room full of people that just didn't understand me. Hazem came up to me and said, "I'm sorry for everything that you're going through." And that was such a powerful thing to say in the moment that I needed to hear it, because I just felt like the world was against me, and I felt like no one cared about the pain that I was in. I just broke down, and I lost it. Everything in me just let go, and tears started flowing, and I was able to just let go of all the built-up anger and aggression and hurt that I had been feeling. All it took was compassion and an apology.
The experience of not having your father's approval and validation was a tough deal for him. So what Hazem has had to wrestle through was finding somebody that says, you know, son, you're not just valuable, but you're valuable to me.
I used to question whether my father loves me. I know he loves me. I know he loves me because he hasn't done what is prescribed according to his religion.
Do you think that's because of the religion or because of where we live in America?
Well, I would sure hope so. It's because he loves me. No, we'll never know. I mean, this is why I was a secret Christian for so many years. And even after leaving home, I was a secret Christian.
Hazem's having then to make decisions about, with what I've chosen, what does that put me? Does that put me in opposition against my heritage? His ancestry is Palestinian, back generation after generation after generation, and his father wanted to maintain that. And so he comes out of this. So now, who is he? Who is he?
He was like indoctrinated. That's how I felt. But he didn't know where he was going. And I don't think he was very happy either. I thought that Hazem was a very talented young man. He had the ability to talk to people, very charismatic. But life goes by too quickly, and I thought that he should go to college and he should learn something different and do something different with his life. And I don't think at that time he knew. He just knew he was in a survival mode.
People were rallying and, shouting, "Death to America, death to..." So he's Westerner, blonde, green hair, eyes. He's like, I'm toast. I mean, I can't even escape, I look like it. So some guys looked at him and say, "Where are you from?" And he's like, "I'm from Chicago." "Oh, my brother is working in Chicago. I love Chicago." And they were shouting, "Death to America," and he loves Chicago. "Hey, do you know how I can get green card to go to Chicago?" Really? Seriously. Double standard, Because they go with the flow, Yeah. They can't really not stand and shout because everybody else will look and say, "Oh, why aren't you doing this with us?" Yeah. They can get in trouble themselves. I grew up as a very devout Muslim. I was so close to the sources, the Quran, the Hadith, and anything related to the history of Islam. So it was no surprise to me when I left Islam. There is a sense of fear sometimes in the West against Muslims. Really, it has nothing to do with the Muslim people. It has to do with the ideology itself. The concept of freedom of religion doesn't exist in Islam or under Sharia law. Simply because Islam is a universal religion, and in chapter 3, for instance, verse 85, it says clearly that if anyone were to choose any religion, I'm paraphrasing it, any religion other than Islam, it won't be accepted of them. So right here in this verse, you have two choices. You either accept Islam as your faith, or you don't accept Islam and you're already violating basically the commands that are given to you from the God of Islam. So as an apostate, according to Sharia law, there is a punishment. I mean, the least that can happen to me is being warned and thrown in jail, which many countries practice. But the worst thing that can happen is the death penalty. And this is not taken out of void, it's taken out of the traditions that were implemented by the Prophet of Islam and the caliphate that came after them.
First of all, thank you for doing this. I'm honored and I look up to you tremendously. I brag about you everywhere I go.
I learned from my family that I could practice my faith more freely in America than anywhere else in the world, and they had escaped Syria for political persecution, but had been very much aware of what radical Islam can do. And ultimately, in America, I learned about the Quranic scripture, learned about the Islamic tradition, the seerah of the Prophet, and embraced Islam. And even though I was raised and born a Muslim, I truly believe that Islam is a choice. And I made that choice. While many of the passages in the Quran speak to a different time, which was related to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, the vast majority of it I found to be a very beautiful, inspiring scripture from God as a conversation with me about the importance to be honest, to try to do good, to avoid that which is bad, to love my family, love my community, love my country, which is why I served in the Navy. So my profession as a physician, I feel like every patient I treat is on behalf of God. And the recipe or the language of that is through Islam.
Did you have a hard time because of not believing like your family?
There was that the first time that my dad found out. He says, "We're family, aren't we?" I said, "Of course." He says, "We're Arabs, aren't we?" I said, "Of course we're Arabs." Then he says, "We're Muslims, aren't we?" And at that point, I felt fear. And I said, "No, Dad." I said, "I'm not a Muslim anymore." He said, "Why?" He says, "I'm happy this way, you know?" And he threw his shoe at me and kicked me out. In the Arabic, the word is kafir, and worst, murted. Murted is the apostate who left. They consider you an apostate, and then even, you know, some members from my own family, you know, turned against me, and that was a very difficult thing. It's like, you know, you always think, oh, I'll be able to handle it, but then when it happens, it's like your soul just kind of is jolted, and you feel the shock, like, whoa. It's like, it's something not normal. I got a call saying, "You got 2 hours, leave, or we're gonna come get you." And there were three guys there at that time. All three of them had told me that they were believers. He said, "Sit down." I said, "I don't want to sit down." And he said, "Sit down." And he said to me, he says, "You're a fool. You're being used by the Americans. You're an idiot. You're out here, you're 40 years old walking around with a guitar. Everybody's laughing at you. They think you're stupid. They think you're a fool." And then he started hitting me. "We're waiting for you to come back to Islam." He says, "I could kill you right now. It's halal. It's permissible to kill you, and I'll go straight to heaven." You know, I still wasn't believing that what was happening. I still wasn't believing that this was really happening, because I was so sure they were my friends. I honestly, at that point, when I finally realized, wait a minute, this is real, I honestly thought they were going to kill me. So I ran for the door, I opened it, and I bolted out of there.
Thank you for doing this today.
No, thank you for coming.
I seriously hope the richest, hottest woman out there will see this video.
On, somebody, yes.
And fall in love with you and your stories and your quirkiness.
Like my music. Think I sing good.
I think you're great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want a woman that does it.
No, I wasn't talking about me, Mess. I'm talking about, like, I think your music is great. Where are we? Don't you think his music is great?
Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
I mean, yeah. Welcome to Reflections. I'm honored that you are tuning in. Don't go anywhere, because today you and me are going to be given an inside window into what life looks like for a Saudi Muslim woman.
He had gotten lots of opportunities or invitations to share about his newfound faith.
And caution him that people would use him, because it's one of those hot topic buttons, so to speak, play off of it, maybe for their own personal agenda or gain or whatever. And so that was one of the things too with me that really made me
nervous
Yeah.
was the fact that he's going to find out that we're people like everybody else. And so you meet new people, and the idea is in this new faith, everybody's wonderful. And then you find out in the new faith that there are people that's like what you've left, that's going to disappoint you. That maybe you're not everything that they appear to be.
He was very impulsive, and it didn't matter who told him anything. He believed everything everybody told him. So he was very naive. During the past 14 years that I have followed Hazem's life, and I've learned a lot about him. I've learned of all these people that always want to help him. They come out of the woodwork, but their help is to manipulate him. Their help is for him to make them money.
He's had his disappointments, Hazem's had his ups, his downs, and some really downs. There was a couple of times that I thought, oh God, is he gonna make it through this?
I have seen people who I thought were monsters of human beings. They were just evil, mean, bad people, and then they give their life to God. They become angelic, almost like floating, you know? Then I've seen the opposite. I've seen religion make good, kind, beautiful human beings turn into monsters.
And then you get around those people that maybe are powerful, and along with power goes affluence and that sort of thing, and not get corrupted in the process.
I was separated from my family. That was the first shocker. That was the first traumatic experience. My second most traumatic experience in life is when I was separated from my Christian community. It was a moment in my life where I realized that slapping the name of God on something to justify your behavior is wrong on either side. Islam or Christianity. And both are wrong. Whether it's Islamic or whether it's Christian, they're both wrong.
Islam is the faith. It's submission to God because you choose the faith of Islam, but it's a very personal submission. Islamism is the belief that the faith should also then encompass governmental processes and laws. The instrument of that is Sharia. So Islamism, short, is a form of theocracy.
So we know that Sharia law is the guidance for the Muslims within the religion. With your interpretation, can you support that it's a personal?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is why you need devout Muslims to do this, because you will be dismissed out of hand if you're not somebody who loves your faith and does this from tough love and also knowledgeable. And I'm not the person who's going to be rewriting Sharia, but I do believe that if you wait for the imams to do this work, it'll never happen. We, the anti-Islamist Muslims, are a majority of the Muslim population. Now, how much of a majority, I think that has yet to be learned.
In your educated opinion, can the Islamic culture thrive in a republic like the United States?
If the 3 million Muslims in America start to get our heads around defeating political Islam, and America stops because of political correctness giving us a pass and actually says, you know what, you guys need to lead this, and you need to speak out against the evil of Islamism and promote a liberty-based Islam. America says, oh, we don't want to offend Muslims on the one hand, and the other hand that says, well, it's all of Islam, so we can't do anything about it. Both sides of that make me and reformists irrelevant, who are really the shortest. As complicated as my route seems, the other route is 10 times longer, and if not, cataclysmic.
And this is what's shocking to me, because I'm watching the news and I'm realizing that everyone's talking about the issue, the problem at hand, but no one's talking about the roots of it. In the Cold War, the US government was studying what that ideology was about. They studied how does someone from that culture in that area, what do they believe, how do they believe, but everyone's afraid to talk about Islam.
I see the red, white, and blue here, and it makes me proud on the inside. And my message here today is not about Israel, it's not about Iran. It's not about anything other than it's a message for the world. And I stand here today with you guys. You might see me, but you don't see the multitudes of people behind who have stories that we have never heard about. There are stories of women being raped. There are stories of kids being sold into slavery. There are whole people groups in the Middle East who are looking to us. And today I am speaking my opinion that enough is enough. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. I'm sorry. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. You cannot negotiate with somebody who wants to kill you.
Today we're going to be taping with a gentleman by the name of Father Zechariah. He's wanted for
60 million.
60, just 60. That's not too much. Yeah. I mean, Bin Laden was only wanted for what?
25.
25. That means we have an opportunity today to make $60 million. Not funny?
No.
No, not funny. So we're waiting for Father Z to arrive. I was just told that they're doing circles around the block to make sure that there's no one laying in wait for him, kind of like to ambush him. So, that's him. I think that's them. How did it feel to have your brother murdered at such a young age?
I was so young, but praise the Lord who took out of my heart any hatred to Muslims. My late father, who was not a priest, he was interested in caring for the converted Muslims from the early beginning. And I lived in this atmosphere. So I inherited what my father had. When I became a priest, I started to publish books about Islam and Christianity. Even the granddaughter of Hassan al-Banna, the establisher of Brotherhood. Muhammad wanted to establish a state, an empire all over the whole world. The whole world. So the caliphs came after him and wanted to accomplish his ultimate intention. But Islam was defeated. Then came Bin Laden, after him Daesh. All those, they want to renew the old theory. They want to accomplish the ultimate intention of Muhammad himself.
So what we're seeing in Iraq and Syria,
it is real Islam. This is the picture of the real Islam. We are Arabs. We understand Arabic, and we search it in their books, and we know very well what they hide from other people. The sword of Islam is against every person ex-Muslim. He should be killed like you, like others. But all these things, they want to prevail, but they will not. They will not. Don't fear. You should not fear.
what a day. Oh my gosh. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That man is a hero to many people. People are offering their opinions, and I'm okay with opinions because opinions could be right sometimes. But when you deal with religion, my opinion doesn't matter when I'm talking about Jesus. What did Jesus say? That's who you need to base Christianity off. So to answer the question of is Islam a peaceful religion,
shouldn't ask me, you shouldn't ask your Muslim neighbor, you shouldn't ask President Obama, you shouldn't ask anybody other than the one who founded it. So what does the one who founded it say?
ISIS, which stands for the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, says now it will simply be known as the Islamic State. And it declared all areas it's overtaken in Syria and Iraq to be a caliphate or Islamic State, a significant move.
In announcing the Islamic State and in using the word caliphate, you see the full extent of ISIS's ambitions.
They include taking over more territory, requiring all Muslims to swear allegiance to the group, and to continue waging a chilling propaganda war. Analysts say it's a simple equation. The more videos are produced in English, the more threats are directed at America, the more fighters will flock to Iraq.
He started talking about ISIS before ISIS was a subject, but nobody would listen to him. We started together the Somerset Foundation, where we decided to go in and help Iraq. Everybody thought we were crazy because the situation was bad in Iraq. He wants to help all those people that are oppressed. And you know why? Because he was oppressed himself. And he felt this big oppression all throughout his life. And I think that finally he's conquering that.
Where is the world when little kids are being maimed, little kids are being slaughtered, women? Where are the feminists? Where is all of these people who have challenged human rights? For some reason our politicians haven't done it. For some reason our leaders in our communities haven't done it. So I'm going to not sit back any longer. One life anywhere is sacred. And a person to just be expired and no one ever think of them anymore is really sad to me. It's really sad.
Hazem, but why you? Why? Why are you? Why are you the one to do something? Why are you the one to speak up? Why are you the one doing this?
Why not me? Why not you? Why not the people who believe in the things that we take for granted every day in the West? Why not? Why not? So this is an unofficial refugee camp in Dohuk, Iraq, northern Iraq. If you notice, it doesn't look much different than the official UN refugee camps. People have been displaced here. Little kids running around. Look at this. There's a baby in there. Do you see that? Where are these guys from? Do we know?
They're from Sinjar.
So we just met with the director of the Dohuk province Ministry of Health. The guy is over 1.5 million refugees, locals, that's total. They went from 1.2 million people to 2.2 million people because of ISIS, and so they're overwhelmed, and we are going to do something and help them. Say hi, Elsa Brown.
Hi, Elsa Brown.
Say hi, Khadir.
Yes, hi.
Say hello, say hi, Tana.
Hi.
There's 8,000 students in this one camp alone, and we're just going to do our part.
نمشي نقالب نابو دنج
We have some kind of a mathematical symbol. You can see this one is the early sign of building the flower of life. This one is simply called the fruit of life.
It's like the Star of David.
How old is the symbol?
It's 7000 BC.
Oh my gosh.
It's old. We go way far into the past, even before the Jews. ISIS, they believe that we believe in the devil, so ISIS simply attacks us and simply justifies it as we are infidel. When the Ottoman Empire started, they combined the whole empire on the basics of Islam. So the Quran teachings was done in here by the Ottomans in before 300 or something like that by Farraj Pasha.
Was it against your will?
Of course. Yeah, they slaughtered many at that year. It was 90% the Arabs. It was 90% our neighbors. There is something we call Karif. Karif is someone who you can consider family. These Karif are those who raped us, and these Karif are those who attacked us. The Karif really, our friends, our family from the Arabs, attacked us. The other day, I was talking to a girl who was abducted from by ISIS, and then she ran away their captivity. She told me, it's my Kirith, the guy who used to come to my house, is the guy who was drinking with my dad, is the guy who was living with us. He was the guy that was raping us. Continually.
I know that there are repercussions in writing of what's supposed to happen to an infidel or somebody like me. So I was deathly afraid that, my brothers or my father, might be that upset with me for this. This was huge, unplanned, and it was a long road. I wasn't allowed to go to my parents' house. I wasn't allowed to be around my nieces and nephews for their birthdays. My sisters would sometimes call me and talk to me here and there, but their husbands, didn't really want me around. Not being able to be there was hard. I was alone a lot. My mother would talk to me here and there, and I couldn't really go to the house or go be around them, and that's where we always congregated. So, I didn't have that anymore.
Seriously, I like what you're saying, and it sounds really inspiring and courageous. But do you really think that you could actually get hurt for converting?
Yeah. You want me to say it again, that part?
Did you have the same experience as your brother?
No, my experience with Islam was dominance from my brothers and control from my family. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I wasn't allowed to really live my life. I was controlled in every aspect of my life.
How so?
Being the only girl in the family amongst 4 brothers, I had no freedom to go anywhere. I was always bound to the house. If I wanted to leave, I had to make up a really good excuse why I was leaving. Going to the mall was like mission impossible. My dad wanted me married with children at, 19 years old, 20 years old. His famous line was, the value of, your value goes down at 20. Yeah. Muhammad and I did not have the best relationship growing up. He was more of the father figure, but in a in a violent way, in an abusive way. I didn't have closure when he died. The last time I saw him, I told him I hated him and that I hope I never see him again.
You're not used to being in that seat. Yes. So, but this is good because I think the people need to know what you do.
Helping women to escape something for me, it's really touched my heart. Even this morning, one of the family, they told me, my daughter, she's in Riyadh, could you find any solution to help us to escape? When we just discuss with the woman, we know there are someone on ISIS, they just listen. And sometimes they take phone, they talk to us. I told them that it's not humanity to do that. Feel your daughters being kidnapped by someone, what you are going to do? He don't have answers. He said, no, this is our Sharia tell us we should help Yazidis people to convert to Islam, then we should bring him as a slavery in the beginning, then step by step, they become real people.
So they think they're doing the Yazidis a favor?
Yes.
Honestly, you are a hero.
Thank you.
When Saddam is gone, America, with all her power and her army, she was able to control our border, but she didn't. Can we ask why? I'm sorry to say that when Obama came, he gave more power to political Sunni parties. They want America to leave, and it was a lot of discussion and agreement and like argument about this. But in the end, Iraq said, okay, America, thank you, you have to leave. And they left while, believe me, the moment when the American troops left, everybody felt unsafe in the ordinary streets because we realized this was a big mistake. We were going to pay the price higher.
سيد الرئيس، نذبح تحت يافطة لا إله إلا الله.
السيدة النائبة، التزمي بالبيان الذي وافقت عليه.
سيد الرئيس، نساؤنا تسمى وتباع في سوق الرق. رجاء أخوان، أهلي يذبحون كما ذبح كل العراقيين. ذبح الشيعة والسنة والمسيحيين والتركمان والشبك، واليوم يذبح اليزيديين باسم الإنسانية. انقذونا سيد الرئيس، نطالب البرلمان العراقي بالتدخل الفوري لإنقاذ هذه المذبحة. أريد
شكرا جزيلا، شكرا جناب النائب، شكرا.
Already, American aircraft have begun conducting humanitarian airdrops of food and water to help these desperate men, women, and children survive. Earlier this week, one Iraqi in the area cried to the world, "There is no one coming to help." Well, today America is coming to help.
4 days of the world knowing this, nobody did anything. No conscious did anyone. No one with a conscious.
عندما قرأت البيان في البرلمان ينتشر بسرعة، عند ذلك فقد تحرك.
And because of her speech to the parliament that went viral, that's when the people started moving.
ليس لأنني قلت ذلك أو هم يشعرون أن هؤلاء أبرياء، لا، ولكن ضغط إعلامي.
But because she was speaking to the parliament and politically over the media, the world began to put pressure on them, not because of their good conscience, but because of their reputation.
يعني كنا دائما نتوقع أنه في ديمقراطية وفي حقوق إنسان، ولا أحد تكلم. بمعنى هذه كلها شعارات يستخدمونها عندما يريدون، وليست هي حقائق.
We used to always believe in the Western world's democracy and their belief in freedom and dignity and human rights and freedom of women. But when this happened, we started to see that this is just a facade.
شعرونشتي. My name is Khadr The 3rd of August they came to us and afternoon they told us, you guys will be belonging to us, just keep going what you do. They came to our village on the 15th of August. They collected all the men. They told us, you will have to convert to Islam.
إبادة جماعية للشعب لأنه يعتقد يعني بسبب معتقداته.
We're in the 21st century and because of the beliefs this is happening, because of their thoughts and philosophies.
All of these Arab villages, they help ISIS immediately when ISIS come to the area. They root the Yazidis' homes and things.
They told us, okay then, since you are not converting to Islam, we will guide you and take you to the safe area on Sinjar mountain. And instead of taking us to the mountain, groups of us, they would be taken around the village and they will just make us as a line and they would shoot everyone.
مشكلتنا في سنجار
The problem in Sinjar
إنه إحنا قريبين جدا من القرى العربية.
is because we are very close to the Arab villages.
وهذه القرى العربية هي اللي ساعدت داعش على الدخول إلى سنجار.
And these villages are the ones that empowered Daesh to enter the Sinjar.
Iraqi villagers.
Yes. Yes.
And the government knows this.
Yes, of course.
Now they use that powerful, they take it from American to killing minority. Because of that, people, they say, Obama, he don't understand what's going to happen in the area.
So they shot us and they went away. And after that, I could feel that I'm not dead, like I could feel I'm still alive. And I got up and we went to the east side of the village. There was an Arab village.
Were there any Muslims that defended you from those villages?
No.
We told those Arabs that we survived from this massacre and they told us we will not protect you, we will not help you.
One of the people, he told his friend and his neighbor, my wife and my children are available, so please take them to a safe place.
الرجل أخذ الزوجة والأطفال وحاجياتهم الثمينة والسيارة وسلمهم إلى داعش.
Wow. The friend took the wife and the kids and all the belongings and gave them to Daesh.
Don't ask me why, because I don't know really.
Can I get a picture of his scar?
Yes, you can believe it.
Sin,
You know, on that day, one of the American journalists, they phoned me. He told them, what do you say? I told them, tell him Obama. I should answer this because I think from mountain. تمام، أنا اللي عليها هسه أروح من المكتب أخابرك بقول لك الفلوس بديها مكتبك. أهلا وعيني، هلا وشكرا. شكرا جزيلا، الله يخليك، مع السلامة. هلا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين عيسى موسى داوود كتاب سماوي
انتوا مسلمين؟
طبعا احنا قرآن
ليش هاجروا؟
عنده ولد عشيت الكاكل وانا مسيحي الشبش التركمان الازي هاجرون
حتى المسلمين هاجروا.
هي حتى مسلمين، احنا مسلمين.
طب ليش؟ ايش
والله كل شيء معنا ابد هيك.
شو قصدهم يعني هم الدولة الإسلامية كيف يهاجروكم يعني؟
هذا يدورون على دولة إسلامية. ليش وش دولة إسلامية؟ هم دولة إسلامية بس احنا هاي أقليات يهاجرون. عرب هم باقي وياهم. إن شاء الله. إن شاء الله إن شاء الله بخير. الله دول الغرب.
الله دول الغرب.
She's from around here. It's easier for that somebody that's from here than us, you know.
Okay, Tina. If you like her face, image she has.
So,
شوال.
In the beginning of his ministry, there were peaceful, loving, tolerance verses. That's what gets quoted a lot in the West. Where did it go from there, from the peaceful, loving verses? And why do we have these hatred, violence, and what things we're dealing with now? When studying religion, you study the book, the founder, and history. What do these three say? There was a connection between his fame and his verses. So when he was a weak man in Mecca, love, tolerance, peace, all of that. You do your religion, I do mine. But then when he had a following, that's when things changed.
I read in the Huffington Post and in Time Magazine and all these different media, there is nothing in the life of Muhammad that justifies or encourages what ISIS is doing. That's exactly what he did to the Jews of Beni Qurayza. He killed 1,000 of them, beheading the men. And what did he do with the women? Those were considered malakat al-yamin, the women, the possessions of your right hand. They were like slaves. Muhammad had about 80 incursions, 80 of these wars that he waged in his lifetime.
In areas like Europe, a lot of Islamic communities are asking for more and more rights, more Sharia law courts. Why? Because they feel that they are a majority enough now to have their own teaching governing their community. You go back to the Middle East and you see entire nations actually that are applying this. Whenever Islam is dominant, it's the law of the land, there's always going to be peace in there. Whenever Islam is the minority, or at least it's fighting to have its voice in a certain state or a certain community, then the enforcement of those violent sides of the Quran will become necessary.
طلعت 4 من قرقاش طلعنا. شو نسوي؟ قاعدين هاي القيام وشو نسوي؟ صاحب 6 أطفال. America destroyed the Iraq. Why? Because there are maybe 30 or 50 Daesh in Karakosh, or about maybe 10 or 5 storing now my city, Karakosh. Oh, I am sleeping here about place about animals.
لماذا لا تدفع الجزية؟ اسمي لعنك الله ونحن قادمون بإذن الله الدولة الإسلامية في العراق والشام. مدرس من الأول لسه أدرس كيمياء، يعني شلون الأسلوب يكون ومحبوب بالمدرسة ولحد الآن. يعني نفس الحالة الأخويا، نفس الحالة دزولي رسائل نفس الحالة.
اللي يصور يعني عندنا مناطق مخصصة تصورها.
شكرا يعطيكم العافية. أهلا وسهلا. أصلي لكم الجميع إن شاء الله.
منظمات يقولون منظمات إنسانية. وينكم منظمات إنسانية؟ وين؟
لما كانت الحرب العالمية الأولى، إيش كان عملوا بالجماعة هون؟ يعني كثير من المسيحيين كان ذبحوهم، كان قتلوهم، كان بهدلوهم، بس مع هذا بقيت المسيح.
فيهم يجوا إربيل، في داعش يجوا إربيل، في احتمال؟
قرر ما يخلوهم. وبعدين هسه يعني قرر يعني الكونغرس الأمريكي أنه قرر بأن راح هو يتدخل ويقضي على داعش.
إذا إجوا حتمشي؟ إذا إجوا هون راح تمشي ولا تستمر؟ سؤال If I said to any of those victims that I saw that these were terrorists, they would be so offended. Not that they're not terrorists, ISIS are terrorists. But there's this misconception in America and in Europe. Everybody wants to kumbaya their way to their own agenda and politics and whatnot. But there's this misconception because of either ignorant people or dishonest people or wishful people. When I was growing up, there was no such thing as radical Islam. There was just Islam. When I grew up, jihad was not a question of a physical struggle or an inner struggle. It was both. And from a historical perspective, if you look at history, history will show you that they are following the example of the Prophet.
I believe it's 164 verses calling for violent jihad. And for the people that didn't want to do that, Muhammad rebuked them and said that God is going to punish them for not joining him in this jihad, which is a means of forcing people to convert to Islam, like they're doing in Syria, like they're doing in Iraq right now. Muslims are beautiful people, but the problem isn't them. The problem is not Muslims. The problem is Islam does encourage these things.
Okay, well, we were driving back and we broke down 20 miles an hour.
The wonderful moment where you break down, and that's the mountain where ISIS lives. So, this is how disasters happen. So many of you know I come to Iraq and I help, really, we all help actually. It's like a social media effort with my friends and family and my social media followers. I know I'm biased, so I get it, but this is my baby, but it's also the baby of so many people who are dealing with it and have been dealing with it, so I really feel privileged and honored that I get to have a voice in it.
Excuse me?
Yes?
I have some question.
Okay.
Do you like here?
Yes, I like it.
Yes.
You are very welcome here, Mrs.
We started out 120. Now this is not far from Ground Zero, Sinjar, where ISIS made its debut. I believe the best way to combat terrorism is to be normal and live your life in spite of the fear, despite the fear. In the face of that fear, you just be yourself, and not only be yourself, you celebrate it. And so the numbers of family began to increase, and so now my heart is happy to say that we went from 120 to this next school year is going to have 1,000. 1,000. Now, if that doesn't make your heart just jump, I don't know what will, because this is me. I'm one person with the help of my friends and family and close ones, and we're doing this. We are actually making an impact.
In Washington, where Pope Francis has used his first address to the US Congress to highlight what he called the disturbing and worrying rise of religious violence and extremism. And so next week, that very same Congress, those very same lawmakers will hear the harrowing testimony of a young girl, a victim of violent persecution and repeated rapes. She goes by the pseudonym Bazi. She's a 20-year-old Yazidi who was captured by ISIS when they attacked Sinjar in Iraq last summer. She was bought, imprisoned, raped and abused by an Islamic State militant for 5 months. Bazi was eventually saved by Khida Domli, who helps Yazidi women escape the clutches of this terror group.
ينطونا تليفون على ما نشوف الوقت مناسب نقول له تعال فلان ساعة وفلوسك وروح ما عندنا مشكلة.
He's negotiating to rescue
أفتهم. أوكي خلاص. أوكي هسه راح.
Here is Bazi's story. We've hidden her face to protect her identity. Bazi, what did they do to you?
There was nothing left to do to me. They did everything.
Can you tell me?
They separated me from my family. They got me married by force. The reason was because we were not Muslims. He was telling us we should go back to the Prophet's age, either being a Muslim or die.
I heard you say kafar. They called you infidels.
Yes, that's what he was telling us.
What did he look like?
He was a little bit taller than me, with a black beard, black hair. They took my nephew by force from me, and I was raped by them forcefully.
And when you say them, many people?
Abu Abdullah al-Mariki.
So he was an American?
Yes, he was American.
Did his family know, if you talked to him, what he was going to do? No. But I guarantee you the people that did, they're still out here.
So there are others?
Of course there are.
So do you think they'll influence other kids?
Yes.